Hello and welcome. If you're preparing for your prelims or your mains, you know how crucial the environment section is. Today, we are tackling a topic that's not just important, it's a massive global agreement that you absolutely have to know inside and out, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So let's jump right in.
So, first things first, why was this framework even needed? Well, the science is, frankly, terrifying. Back in 2019, the IPBES, which is kind of the IPCC for biodiversity, put out this major report. And the warning was crystal clear. Nature is declining at a rate we've never seen before in human history, and that's a direct threat to all of us.
When you're facing a crisis on that scale, you need a plan, right? A global one. Which brings us to the big question. What is the world's game plan to fix this? And here it is, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, or, as you'll see it everywhere, the GBF. This is the name you need to burn into your memory. It's the world's new, ambitious roadmap to not just stop, but actually reverse the loss of biodiversity.
Okay, to make this super easy for your notes, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the why, the crisis itself. Then we'll unveil the plan, look at its long-term vision and goals, then dive into the nitty-gritty action targets for 2030. After that, we'll see how it's all supposed to happen, and we'll wrap up with a quick-fire summary of all the key takeaways for your exam. Sound good?
All right, section 1. Look, for any good exam answer, you need to set the context first. So before we get into the solution, the GBF, we have to be absolutely clear on the problem it's trying to solve. That IPBES report I mentioned, it identified 5 main things that are directly causing this crisis. To help you remember them for your exam, just think of the word CLIPO. That's C for climate change, L for land and sea use change, I for invasive alien species, P for pollution, and O for the overexploitation of resources, CLIPO. These 5 pressures are exactly what the framework is designed to fight against. Okay, on to section 2. So, what is this global plan, really? Well, think of the GBF as the sequel to the world's previous plan, which ran from 2011 to 2020 and had something called the Aichi targets. Let's just say that plan didn't quite get the job done. So the GBF is here to learn from those lessons and be much more effective. Now pay close attention to the key words on this slide because they are gold for your mains answers, whole of government and whole of society. This is a huge deal. It means this plan is not just for the Ministry of Environment. It demands action from finance, from agriculture, from industry. Every single part of government and society has a role to play.
Let's move up to the top level of the framework. Like any big strategy, it has a clear structure. At the very top, you've got the ultimate dream, the vision. Then you've got the immediate focus, the mission. And under that, 4 big long-term goals.
It's really important you know the difference. The 2050 vision is the beautiful long-term dream, a world living in harmony with nature. But the 2030 mission is the urgent, right here, right now command. It's about taking action immediately to stop the bleeding and actually start to reverse the damage, all within this decade. And holding up that vision are these 4 big goals for 2050. And hey, another handy mnemonic for you. Just remember ABCD. A is for all life, protecting species and ecosystems. B is for the benefits we get from nature. C is for compensation, which is all about sharing the benefits from genetic resources fairly. And D, well, D is for dollars, the money and tools to make it all happen. Speaking of dollars, goal D brings us to this absolutely massive number, the global biodiversity finance gap. That's the difference between what we spend now and what we actually need to spend is estimated to be $700 billion every single year. Closing this gap is probably the biggest challenge for the entire framework. All right, time for section 4. This is the absolute heart of the GBF and the part you're most likely to see detailed questions on. We're talking about the 23 specific actionable targets that need to be achieved by 2030. This is where the rubber meets the road. Now, 23 targets sounds like a lot to memorize, I know. But here's the good news. You can think of them in 3 simple groups. The first group is all about reducing those threats we talked about. That's CLIPO. The second is about making sure we can use nature sustainably to meet our own needs. And the third is about the tools and solutions, the money, the policies, to get it all done. Get ready to hear the number 30 a lot. The first time we see it is in Target 2.
This one calls for at least 30% of all our degraded ecosystems, both on land and in the ocean, to be under active restoration by 2030. That's a huge repair job.
But the most famous 30 is right here, in Target 3. This is the one you've probably heard of, the 30 by 30 target. The goal is to protect and manage at least 30% of the world's land and sea. But for your exam answers, the details matter. It's not just any 30%. It has to be done through ecologically representative and well-connected areas. And this is so important, while respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples and local communities. Okay, quick jargon check. You're going to see this term, nature-based solutions, or NBS, everywhere. It's a simple idea. Instead of building a huge concrete wall to stop flooding, you restore a mangrove forest. The forest protects the coast, provides a home for fish, and absorbs carbon. It's using nature to solve our problems. That's an NBS. Let's get back to the money, because it's a huge part of this story. Target 18 tackles a massive problem: governments giving money to things that destroy nature, like harmful agricultural subsidies. The target is to reduce these harmful subsidies by at least $500 billion a year. So this isn't about finding new money, it's about stopping the flow of bad money. And then, on the flip side, Target 19 is about bringing in the good money. The goal here is to mobilize at least $200 billion a year from all possible sources, public, private, you name it, to actually fund biodiversity action. Now, take a look at this chart. It shows a really critical part of that $200 billion goal. It's about money flowing from developed countries to developing countries. You can see the plan is to hit at least $20 billion a year by 2025, and then ramp it up to at least $30 billion a year by 2030. This is always a super important and often contentious part of any global agreement. Okay, on this section 5. You can have the best plan in the world on paper, but if there's no way to make sure people actually do it, it's just paper. So how does the GBF try to ensure countries actually follow through? Well, it's built on a pretty simple cycle: plan, report, review. First, every country has to update its own national biodiversity plan. These are called NBSAPs to match the new global goals. Then they have to report regularly on how they're doing. And finally, there are global reviews to add everything up and see if we as a planet are on track. For your exam, the term NBSAP is key. Poof, we have covered a lot of ground, but now it's time for the most important part for your last-minute revision. This is everything we've talked about, boiled down to the absolute must-know facts and figures. Let's lock it in. All right, rapid fire. The vision is for 2050. The mission is for 2030. It has 4 goals, remember ABCD, and 23 targets. The big headline target is 30 by 30, conserve 30% of land and sea. On the money front, cut bad subsidies by $500 billion a year and raise $200 billion a year in good finance. Out of that, $30 billion a year needs to go to developing countries by 2030. And the main way countries do all this is through their NBSAPs. Got it? So we'll end on this thought. The Kunming-Montreal framework is, without a doubt, the most ambitious plan for nature the world has ever agreed to. The words are strong, the targets are clear. But the real question, the billion-dollar, or rather $700 billion question, is this: is the political will actually there to make it happen? That is the story we'll all be watching for the rest of this decade. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.